Perfect. Hello, everyone. For those who don't know me, I am Sara. I'm the community and training lead of OLS, and I am one of the coordinators for this program Nebula that I'm hoping that you are finding super useful and super fun. Today with me, I have Esdras, who will be facilitating and helping today in the call, and we have Pauline, who will be delivering the training session on data management plans. So I'm just going to remind you all again, I'm sorry, I feel like a broken record, but yeah, we are having our Framapad, it is pinned in the chat, link is just there. Please all just get into from line 17 and share your names. What is your preferable way to contribute today? And extra points if you can just share with me go-to productivity tricks when you're feeling unmotivated. It's almost the end of the week, so that might be a general mood. I have no doubt that you will have a lot of fun today. I'm just going to remind you all as well, the call is being recorded, it will be transcribed as well, and we will have all the recordings in the YouTube channel. So up to last week, they are already there. So if you want to catch up with anything, all the materials are there. We will be working today as usual within our OLS code of conduct. It is linked there in the Framapad. But in essence, while we love challenging and encouraging discussions, let's all keep it considerate and respectful. This is a worldwide community. So as you can see, for example, English is not my primary language. So we try our best as well to put ourselves in the skin of others. Nevertheless, if you do experience or witness unacceptable behavior, please get in touch with me or with Gracieli. Our emails are there in the Framapad. We will be using the Framapad for share note taking. So again, please do write in there with your names if you prefer to participate today with written contributions. So put a W next to your name or speaking, an S, and we will divide the breakout rooms accordingly. Even if you use the Zoom chat to communicate during the breakout rooms, please do take a minute to share your summary of discussions or note taking in the Framapad. So then you can, use it to report back, and also like Esdras can help you to report back on that. And I think that's it to be honest for today. I wanted to remind you as well, we still have time and sorry. We still have time for you to sign to the coaching sessions. I'm just posting now the link in the chat. So there is the sign up form, but it is also linked in the Framapad. Do make use of these coaching sessions. Even if you don't take them as coaching sessions, you can make them as out of office support. Experts will be there. We just need to know your main interest so we can pair you with the right expert. So please make use of them. They are very informal. You don't have to prepare anything but like 5 guideline questions. And that's it. They are all for you, basically, to support you and to guide you through your all open science learning. So make good use of those. And I think that's enough of me today. I'll leave you with Pauline. If you want to start sharing, I'm going to leave you introduce yourself, Pauline. I think you all do better than me. So yeah, thank you so much.
Right, I'm going to share my screen and then can you all
Perfect.
see? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so my name is Pauline Karega. I'm a third-year PhD student at the University of Manchester. I'm doing an interdisciplinary study in earth and environmental sciences and computer science. My area of specialty right now, or my project, looks into air quality and health data integration, and specifically looking at the socio-technical challenges that when you're trying to link these two data sets, what type of challenges you face. And I'm doing it in a global north versus global south perspective. And I'm also a co-founder of the Bioinformatics Hub of Kenya initiative, and I believe you met my colleague for part one of this. So this is exciting. So this is just a continuation of what she started, of what Laura started. So yeah, today we're going to be looking at data management plans and an outline of what we'll be looking at. We're going to introduce data management plans, go through steps of writing a data management plan, and then look at the opportunities for involvement in open data communities. This is meant to be one of the most practical sessions of the entire cohort or the entire curriculum. So follow along, do the exercises, take part. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Right. Yeah, and again, this is I'm just picking up from where the last session left off, or a part of where the last session was supposed to ping back, ping to. So you went through in Open Data Part 1, how to apply FAIR principles, just a very brief introduction. So data management plans are the main tool to be able to do that. So if you're feeling, yeah, if you have these resources and you feel a bit lost about, oh, I haven't gone through part 1, that will link you to, although this will link you to the very first cohort, but it's the same material and you can just revisit that before coming into this. Just to share a very brief story, one of the cool things about data management plans, I did about the story is about me. I'm going to make it about myself a little bit. I did my undergraduate and master's in Kenya, and then I'm doing my PhD in the United Kingdom. And given that my project is about data, mainly about data, one of the main things I faced was culture shock. The difference in resources in these two parts of the world, and the institutional practices and the systemic culture, especially around data, between these two places were, yeah, the very different. And so it was a bit of a transition for me to be able to do my work, and my project looks at all these things. So one of the main things I want you to take away from this session is, yeah, other than being able to write a data management plans, we're going to be looking at the roles of individuals who are responsible for data, your own roles, how you think about data, how you think about sharing it. So have all that in mind, and I hope this is going to be an enjoyable session. So data management plans, it's a structured document outlining how research data will be handled during and after a project, covering creation, storage, security, sharing, and preservation. And some of the common elements, whoops, sorry about that. Let's see, I'm going to exit that fast. Common elements of DMPs. Relevant to open data include this description of the following. So when you're thinking about a data management plan, you're going to be thinking about the what. What is your data? What format is it in? Where relevant, what are the standards that are around your data? So the policies around it. So you have to think about a lot of what's. You're going to think about when. So when are you collecting your data? When are you able to share it? And then you're going to be thinking about everything around the when. So things like embargoes, things like when your school allows you to make your data open, or your supervisor or your when you're allowed to do a bunch of these things with your data. You're going to be thinking about the where, intended repositories for storage and archiving of your data. You're going to be thinking about how the plan enables you to reuse the data, and finally the who, the roles and responsibilities of all the people who allow your data, allow you to use your data, allow you to reuse it, and do all these things with your data and enable fair to happen. So allow it to be findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable, right? So those are the main components or the common elements of a DMP. And then now we go to a fast exercise. It's a very short one usually. Think about a project that you have or have done before or will work on in the future, and write down in your notebook or something, write down what the data will be, in what format it will be in, where you'll store it, who other than yourself will interact with the data, and in what way. So yeah, try this out for around 7 to 10 minutes. And then when you're done, just put a thumbs up so that we know you're done. It might take less than 7 to 10 minutes. Yeah. Can we have a timer, Esdras?
Yes, let me put that up for you. Shall we make a space in the Fromapad for people to share, Pauline?
Yeah, it's totally okay. If they're comfortable sharing,
Perfect.
totally good. Yeah.
This might there some notes.
Right. Okay. So I hope everyone managed to do the exercise. Right. Keep that where, yeah, you'll use it later. So just keep that aside. Then we're going to go through it after we're done with a few other things. Right. So where to start with data management plans. So two platforms are especially useful in getting started with DMPs. So we have one called the DMP tool and another one called DMP Online. Now I am more biased to DMP Online because it's what my institution uses, and yeah, also all my friends use it as well. So DMP Online helps you create, review, and share data management plans that meet institutional and funder requirements. And it is provided by the Digital Curation Center, DCC. And one of the good things about the DMP Online, it has a free community supported, it's a free community supported service that makes it easier to create machine actionable data management and sharing plans. So DMPs that meet funder requirements especially, and follow best open science practices. So one of the main things about data management plans, initially they were mainly required by funders. They're usually one of the main requirements by funders, but also institutions are now adopting it, and also as individual scientists, they're also really good tools to be able to just follow along with your data and understand what you have and how you're going to make it open, and how you're going to make your data fair and open, to be able to promote open science and good practices, because that's a good thing, and that's why we are all here learning about open science. We're not required by our own institutions. Maybe it's a personal drive, so learning this as well becomes a very useful thing. So yeah, one of the main things of this session today is a walkthrough of DMP Online. So we're going to switch over to doing a practical walkthrough of DMP Online and actually make a whole data management plan, right? So just going to jump over to my platform. So it's very easy to create a DMP.
Yeah, I'm at work, yeah.
It's very easy to create an account with DMP Online. So you just Google DMP Online and then open an account, put in your email, put in a password, and then you'll be fine. For many institutions, you will find that you can log in through your institution, or even if you use your other email, or if you link your other email, you will find that you're able to access templates that are provided by your own institution. Yeah, so for example, my own university, the University of Manchester, once I log in to with my email, this is what I get. This is how my dashboard presents itself. And the first thing that shows up is I can email, or I can look at the Research Data Management Service website of my institution to follow along and see what I need to be able to fill in this form or document. And I can also email the Research Data Management Service team to ask for help in case I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, but should be fairly simple. If I log out, for example, if you don't have an institutional email and you also don't want to create an account, there are public DMPs. So you can just find one that suits you. Have to figure out first what it is you're looking for, and find one, download it in form of a PDF, and follow along with it. to fill out what it is you need. So this is an example this is an example. And if your project is sort of similar to this, you just follow along and create the same segments or sections in your own DMP. And create one for yourself. And like I said, it's a useful tool, especially for funders, meeting funder requirements. And depending on the funding that you've gotten. So for example, in bioinformatics or even in the field I am right now, one of the major funders who is Wellcome. So for example, if our project is funded by Wellcome Trust and I need a data management plan that meets Wellcome Trust, their guidelines for funding and data management, I just search for their own and they have a template available for you to use. So you find a sample and you create your own data management plan under their guidelines, which makes it easy. Right, so let us make one for the purposes of this exercise. And you can switch languages as well, which makes it easy. I haven't forgotten my password. Brilliant. Yes, good stuff. Okay, so if I go back to what we presented before about the main components of or common elements of a data management plan, we'll go through, we'll find many questions about what, when, where, how, and who. And this allows you, so before you do the data management plan, you have to think about all these questions beforehand to be able to fill it out. It is a long process, so buckle up. I created a generic template, just we can create another one. It is a mock project. So let's create a new project. Research on genomic data availability in the Global South is the title of my project. It's going to be a mock project. And you can find more organizations, customized templates. There are quite a lot, or you can, I'll go with a generic template. And to be able to do this, let's pick a domain. Given our title, it's about genomics. So biological sciences. Let's go with that. Let's say the project starts today. Today's the 18th. And let's say it ends tomorrow. Ambitious timeline, but that's okay. To generate automatically generate an ID. If we don't have a funder, you just leave it out. Funding status. When you're doing this with a funders template, you'll be able to find one of those. So you just save your information, and so we go to our first who. If your project has a principal investigator, so if you have supervisors, for example, this is where they come in, and you add them as collaborators. So can I get in the chat, or can someone say anyone who would be a contributor to a data management plan, for example, in a project? Anyone else? If you're doing the project with someone else as well, another student, an analyst or a trial coordinator. Thank you, Claire. all these people can be added as contributors. Right. Yeah, and then we go to the plan overview. Before you get to the writing of the plan, it gives you a rundown of all the questions that you're going to be asked throughout the writing of your plan. So let's scroll down and look at some of these questions. You're going to be asked about all the reviewer bodies or ethical people within the institution, ethical bodies, administrative bodies, if there are, if they exist in the institution that will need to be involved in this planning. So you have to figure out that. What data will you use in this project? That's an example of the what. If you'll be using research data storage, so an example of your where, you have to think about your storage. Are you going to be receiving data from someone else and sharing it with someone else, like a third party? So again, other who's come in here. How long do you tend to keep the data for? You get guidance about your questions, the type of information you will be processing, how you plan to store the data. Yeah, so many questions. Let's get into the writing so that we see how all this comes into play. Yeah, and if you're a genomic person, I'm going to need some help writing this. If you're a data availability person, if you're a global south person, let's write this together, right? Okay, so first question is, will this project be reviewed by any of the following bodies? So let's assume we don't have a funder, we have all the money ourselves, we're going to be funding our project by ourselves. So let's say none of them. Let's say ethics. We always need ethics, don't we? Yeah. And then we save that. I am going to be collaborating with the people in this cohort today in OLS. So yes, part of a collaboration and owning or handling data with everyone in the cohort today. And I'm going to need to write additional information about who it is I'll be collaborating with. So another thing you need to think about, data. Will you be using data from other sources, for example? And with our research question or the project title, Research on Genomic Data Availability, we are going to be reusing some of the data that already exists. As open data people, we want to promote reuse of data. So let's say that we are going to be reusing some of the data that already exists. Where will data be stored? And also, yeah, for this question, can I get in the chat or from spoken answers in your institutions? Do you have data storage that you can be able to store data if you do collect it yourself? In my institution, we do have. We can select a whole bunch. So, but in my previous institution, we did not have. So I had to be the source of my own storage. Do you guys have access to data, institutional data storage? That's a requirement. Nice. Yeah. Anyone else? If you're not provided institutional storage, where would you essentially store your data? And where will you have it backed up, for example? Nice. Santos says they have dedicated server at the university where they store their data. Cool stuff. Nice. Good. Awesome. Okay, so 3 out of, I don't know how many we are. Many of us have institutional storage. So that will be stored and backed up. For my previous project, my master's project, since we did not have institutional storage, my supervisor gave me a 32 GB drive and I stored my data there. And as backup, he gave me another one. I stored it and I gave that backup to him so that he had it. And then I just had my own USB where I had my own data. That was a form of storage. But in this case, we have, for example, I can save the P drive and then add other data storage systems, and I need to explain what storage that is. You have to think about your data set, the type it is in, and the amount of storage you will need. This was a big challenge when I was in my previous university because data kept expanding and we did not have all the storage we needed. Yeah, and I believe it's a common problem faced by other places as well, especially if you do not have institutional storage. And sometimes you don't know the amount of storage you need. So that becomes a problem. So you have to think about it beforehand and give yourself some leeway. A very good thing about data management plans. Yeah. One of my colleagues, when I was doing my master's, they had the 32, but they ended up having around 32 GB ones because they kept collecting data and they kept filling up their USBs. So they hadn't budgeted for that many USB drives because that would mean they would need 6 to give to our supervisor to hold on to the backup. And that was not part of the plan initially. So that became a challenge or a problem. So as you can see, DMPs, very important to help you think about storage. Are you going to be receiving data from or sharing data with an external third party? In our case, we've said yes, because we have third party. What type of data will we be sharing with them? That's what we need to think about. We become another who. And we're going to see a little bit down there. There are policies and there are regulations and standards that will allow you or not allow you to share data with this external third party. So, for example, if data is moving between the UK and Kenya, that's data moving between two borders, right? Moving across a border, sorry. So that means there are other policies and legal frameworks that come into play as well. So all this then become part of the entire process. You need to think about it. How long do you intend to keep your data after the end of your project? This is becoming an important question now. For example, in my area of study, GT understands the nightmare that USB storage is. So yeah, right. The intention for how long you're going to keep data for. In my case, for my PhD work, I was using data that was stored I was using air quality data that was hosted by the US.gov, and when everything shut down, yeah, that became a problem. So I can, and as one of my findings as well, some of the data hosted for Kenya was hosted by the US. And that's because Kenya did not have the infrastructure to host their own air quality data. And when that was shut down and they did not have a way to preserve their own data, that data got lost. So to be able to just think about, did they think about such things beforehand? Yeah, you see the importance of having a storage and having backup and thinking about the amount of time you're going to store data in one place and then have to move it to another place. This might be another thing about contracts as well. So you get to think about all these things. Right, that's the fast part. Usually takes less time when you're talking less, like I am. But yeah, you get to think about all these things beforehand. Let's go to questions 8 to 13 about the type of information you'll be processing. And this is somehow where metadata comes in as well. Other than your own data, the genomic data, for example, if that's not your primary data, you're collecting personal information about people. And yes, so you can, how will you anonymize this? Are you collecting the names of people? Are people the main source of your data? Are they giving you information about themselves? How are you going to handle that sort of personal records? Are you handling special category data? And you get to think about what special category data is. Yeah, so I'll just skip on to the next thing. I had a question on that, but it will come later on because I would like you guys to have time to do the next exercise. So I'll just move through a bunch of these faster. How do you plan to store, protect, and ensure confidentiality of any highly restricted data or personal data? So how are you handling personal information? You have to think about this very seriously. Pseudo-anonymization and anonymization. In our university, for example, I had to go through a training course as well, separate from this, to, yeah, how to anonymize or pseudo-anonymize data and all the plans how to make a good plan on how to ensure that personal information is not leaked or does not get lost, even when in the case of anything. So you get to think about all these things, and USBs are not as safe. So what are your added safety features to be able to collect and ensure that the people you've collected data from and the data that you've collected is safe? Again, you get to think about all these things. If you are storing personal information, will you need to keep it beyond the end of the project? Sometimes you need to keep the data you've collected to be able to go back in case there's an error, for example, or to give back reports and stuff. So you have to think about that too again, and you have to maybe consult a supervisor or consult a few other people. If you're dealing with third parties, they have to come in as well. Sensitive information about the other people or the people you collect data from, will that be accessed by anyone else? That's usually a no, but where it is necessary that it is accessed, how do you ensure that it is kept safe? Yeah, so I have to think about quite a lot. if you're collecting data from people, if they're part of the WHO, yeah, you have to figure out how to very much protect them and protect their information. And if they're going to be part of your future studies as well, you have to ensure that your work is kept safe and their data is kept safe, so that you can be able to go back to them and with confidence and tell them that yes, your data is kept safe. And especially for I see a lot of cases, especially for longitudinal studies where you have to follow someone for 10, 20 years. That information is very, safety of the information is critical. So that has to be in mind. Yeah, the other parts of this include the project details, administrative details about your project. You then have to think about your own institution, what type of arrangements are present within your own institution. Policies and guidelines. Do you have institutional policies and guidelines that restrict you? So, for example, in the University of Manchester, there's a policy for data sharing. There's standards for security. We have quite a number of policies that you have to list all of them down and indicate how all of them apply to your own work. And one of the questions I have again down in the next few slides is, does your own institution, are you aware of data policies, standards and requirements that your own institution or university has? Yeah, and if you could list them down. So we're going to see all of them down there, and you're going to do this as well yourself. So yeah. Responsibilities and resources. This is very important. Other than yourself, who else has responsibilities, core responsibilities for your data? Is it just you who allows other people to access? Do you need someone else to come in and ensure that they can be able to access? Yeah, what data role or responsibility in the management do you have? Does your supervisor have? Yeah, and this, if I can share again, one of my main findings of, or being from a global north and a global and also having that global south background, we had to ask about the embargoes, embargo policies within my university. I had to ask, okay, so this data, our school has a 10-year embargo policy on a data set. After 10 years, can I come back and say, now I want to make the data open? Or do I not have that right entirely as the person who collected the data? Is it just my supervisor who has that right to be able to do that? Yeah. Who will collect and create the data? Is it just you? Is it you and a friend? Is it you and your supervisor? It's also really cool to be able to do this when you're doing your methodology, because you get to think about it really well. I found it quite useful to do the two of them at the same time. Metadata, I'm not sure if you've already done the metadata part of this work, which is, given that metadata standards are not very common in quite a number of universities as part of the system, and it has to be a very personal drive to do the metadata part. Yeah, what documentation and metadata are you collecting for your own data? So you have to think about that. How will you manage ethical issues? Within my university, we are given guidelines on how to handle any ethical issues. We do a lot of training around this. So you have to think about, if I collect data from someone and they come and complain that, oh, I do see that my data has been made accessible to someone else and I did not give this authorization. How are you going to protect yourself? How are you going to protect the person you collected the data from? And who is going to be like a mediator, or someone who is going to manage this issue for you? Do you have this sort of protection within your institution? Do you need some other type of protection? And how do you ensure that you've written those down and you know about them so that you're protected in case anything happens? I know nothing about intellectual property, and my work never has IP. So, yeah. Data storage and backup again. Selection and preservation. How will your data be retained? Do you have say in how it is retained, how it can be shared, how it is preserved? Or is your work just to collect it, do your analysis, and once you leave, if you want to come back and access it again, you're not allowed to, because so you get to think about all these things. Yeah, and finally, how will you share your data? I'm sure Laura took you through a few platforms, Zenodo, ThinkShare. Are you allowed to put them in such platforms, or are you allowed to just, can you find a caveat and just share the metadata that is available to allow other people to access your data? So yeah, and once you've done all these steps, once you've written all that down, you think about your research outputs, which are usually quite different. And you can share your data management plan. In my case, for example, if I have another editor and someone said PI, an analyst, you can invite all your collaborators, make sure they edit or they have this rights that they need to be able to help you out within your data management plan. You can request feedback. In my case, I can send it. I do have to send it to my institution service, DMP service, for them to review it and give me feedback to ensure that I've done the correct thing. And then I download it and share it with the necessary bodies, including ethics, before any of my work begins. So usually it's a day's process if you have everything that you need. Yeah, but it also depends on your project and the type of information that you have. So that's the whole rundown of the thing. And I've talked a lot for the past few minutes. There's an exercise in the next slide that you get to interact with one of these plans and see how some of those things come into play. So there's an exercise, it's in the grammar pad, and you also have access to this project. Yeah, and write down all these things. You'll be in a group, in a breakout room, see what you can come up with, and then we come back and do another short exercise and then close it for the day. Estas?
Okay, the breakout rooms are ready. For those who indicated with W and S on the framer path, there are some that did not indicate. If they can do it right now, I will appreciate it. But in the meantime, I'm starting the breakout room right away, and see you at the end. Now we have Heba Fauzi that has not been assigned to any breakout room. Maybe if she can indicate if she prefers spoken or written so that I can add her. Can you hear me, Heba? And sorry if I don't pronounce the name correctly. Pauline, how long is the breakout room supposed to be? 5 minutes?
10 minutes.
Okay.
We can do this one for 10 minutes and then do the next one for 5, or yeah, let's do this for 10 minutes and then for the next exercise, I think we'll give them that to go away with, like go away with assignment. They can do that one, and then because we need to finish by 17:20.
Yeah, that is your time. The time is a little different here, but I guess that's it.
Yeah.
And there are also some questions for you. I hope that you'll have time to answer them.
Right. Okay, so if we only have the 10 minutes for the breakout room and like 5 minutes for sharing, I think I can answer the questions.
Sure. So I'm preparing to close the rooms in about a minute. Okay.
Yes, that's okay.
I should have planned that it ends automatically in 10 minutes in advance.
You
But
give them a
due to lack of experience, I just discovered it afterwards.
you did give them a warning before?
In the Framer part, yes.
Good.
I hope they see it. Some of them are typing directly there. I mean, but next time I'll do better.
You okay?
Okay, let me close them. So there's a 1 minute countdown for the participants to join back.
Good.
Okay, some people have already joined us. Welcome back to all of them. I hope you had interesting discussions in the various breakout rooms. And you would like to invite maybe one representative from each of the groups to share with us the summary of the discussions that they had in their respective breakout room regarding the activity at hand. This is a voluntary activity, so anyone can volunteer to speak for their group. Thank you.
I think some of them are coming back just now.
Mhm. So welcome back to those that joined us just now. Okay. So if anyone wants to share with us the discussions that they had in the different breakout rooms, we are very open to it. If it is more convenient for you to type in the chat, please do. Or if you can open your microphone and share with us, that works as well. Do we have any volunteer for this activity from any of the rooms?
Hi guys, can you listen to me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we get you.
Okay, so I was part of group 4 alongside New and George, and we didn't have so many much discussions. Basically, we were reading the document and trying to identify the answers to the questions. So regarding the first question, we found that the researchers will mostly have delimited data, TXT and XLSX files. They'll also have media in MOV and TIFF format, or apparently media data that they will produce. For the second question, we answered that the data has some sort of embargo, which the researchers justified as a policy from their publisher. However, those who have access to the file will be able to request the data later. For the third question, we answered that the data will be stored at the journal hosting website, so people can use the paper to be able to access some parts, some elements of the data, as well as the University of Colorado data repository. These will be the places where the data will be hosted. For the fourth question, we answered that the data could be accessed by links to the supplementary data in the article. And we mentioned that it lacks maybe explicit and easy to follow licensing. We actually had this discussion, but it was quite short since it was at the end of the breakout room. We mentioned that even we were looking for explicit on documentation regarding the licenses of this work. We felt that this was kind of lacking. And finally, the data manager that we found in the document was Stephen Moyes. And basically, that was what we had in our breakout room.
Anyone have any other groups have any different answers? Don't really think so. It's one document and a straightforward exercise, so to say. Right. Esdras, I'm going to begin to maybe just have that one group have shared. I think everyone else has written in the Frama
Okay.
so that we go through the rest of what we have and then have room for questions before we have to close, if that's okay.
That works.
Okay. So yeah, I hope everyone had a good time with that exercise, had an informative session with that. And the second part of that first exercise, and given what we have gone through and in terms of going through the writing of the DMP or an overview of how DMP Online looks like and the type of information you're requested, and that second exercise where you have gone through someone else's data management plan. This second exercise is basically the information you had written down about your own project and the type of data that you have and all that. You put it down in a data management plan to see how you fare with that. So that's a take-home exercise, essentially. Think about it, do it yourself. Right, and one of the questions that I've seen in the Framapad is if your institution does not have, is not listed in DMP Online when you're trying to sign up because you require an organization. Right, I don't know how legal it is to do this. I use Open University. When I was back home, I used Open University to open a data management, DMP Online account because my university was also not listed in, and Open University is open for all. That was my justification. So I used that to open an account. Yeah. Right. So try it out, fill in some of the details. The beauty with DMP Online, if you, for example, in the first cohort, when we were going through this exercise, they had time to go through this in breakout rooms, and a few Spanish speakers found data management plans that were in their own language. So that is one of the good things with DMP Online. You can find a few in French, Spanish, few other languages other than English if your university requires a different language as well. So interact with this exercise. Yeah, and another assignment, another small assignment. Usually some of in institutions where some things are not, especially this data stuff is not a system thing. In the UK, most of the universities, it's within the system that you do the data bits of your project, like data management plans, you do them as part of your project. So for some universities where that is not part of the system, usually you do find that your university does have some of these resources. They're just not out there for you to be able to see if they're not part of your project. So another small assignment that I like handing out to do as you look at your institution and as you plan for your projects is, go through your institutional documents, websites, or ask questions within your institution in terms of the embargo system in your school, the timing and scope, data storage, if any. What type of policies are around the data that are listed explicitly within your institution to help you navigate data collection and stuff? Is it written down? Is it documented? Can you be able to follow some of these things that are provided by your institution, or do you have to come up with it yourself? So and that's it's also a way that you can interact with open data communities. Where you don't find a practice, you start the practice yourself. That is how open science, the gospel of open science, spread across African institutions, for example, where things are not institutional. Enthusiasts and people who wanted to have good practices, they started it. So using the knowledge that you've learned today and some of the questions that you get to think about as you're doing some of these things, for example, around policy, around metadata. That's how you engage with open data communities. You can contribute to open data repositories. If your own institution does not have one, they become your main point of data storage and backup. So you get to interact with the open data repositories. Many repositories have user committees, so you get to interact with them as well to ask for advice and feedback. If your institution does not have like a data management service, you get to ask open community about, I'm not sure how to handle the ethics. I would handle the ethics of this part, so would you give me guidance on how to write that bit down? Volunteer to serve on standards committees. If they don't exist, you can come up with them. Organize gatherings around open data. From what you've learned today, and if you ask questions around your institution and don't get the answers that you need, can you organize something that will inform your entire group about the existing stuff that you have in your institution and how you can be able to help each other out. And participate in more gatherings like this around open data. There's so much, for example, right now going on around preservation. So that's a good place to start. All the data that got lost once the US shut down a few things, if that affected you, how can you be able to help out with moving things around using metadata? Or within your own domain, if you have similar things, how can you be able to participate and help out? So there are a lot of resources. All these are listed down in these slides, which are already in Zenodo, the OLS Zenodo. And also these resources, I did not create them myself. The Open Science 101 curriculum on open data. This is where I got all that, and there are many, many other resources for you to be able to use. Awesome. Go forth and practice open data stuff. Right. It's open for questions now. Back to you, Esdras.
Thank you very much, Pauline, for all this insight and information. I have one question for you from the Frema part, and the person asks, does code count as data? Because from what I read, they read in data management plan that code was classified under data.
It's an output. If it is part of your data, it can be in some ways. If you're not using it if collecting a bunch of code is your data set, then it is data. If you're not using it for analysis, for example, then yeah, you get to decide what your data is. So if code is data for you, good. What's the second part of that question? Sorry.
I paraphrase the question.
Oh, yeah.
The person, when exploring the data management plan platform, discovered that code was classified under data, and they were asking about it.
Yeah, then yes.
Okay, if there are any other question, please, you can open your microphone and ask it out, or write in the Framer part or in the comment section, wherever it is convenient for you. Okay, I will give us maybe 1 minute to see if anybody shows up with a question. If not, in the meantime, thank you,
very
everyone.
nice. There's a really good resource from Adam Partridge, sorry, yes, Josh, on
Thank you.
finding DMP templates. Thank you, Adam. That's a good resource. I'll take it and add it to the slides and update the ones on Node.
Nice. Thank you to Adam. So in the absence of any questions, we are very glad that you were with us in this cohort. We are 21 participants. This is my first cohort with this much number of people. Nice. Thank you everyone for coming. And we would like you to do something for us. Please, in the Framer part on the last section, starting from 275, line 275, we have a couple of closing and checkout questions that we would really appreciate you to tell us a bit more about how you lived this session and what we can maybe do in order to make things better off the next time, or the things that were good so that we can make sure to keep them in the upcoming sessions. So please feel free to start sharing with us on this part. It's on the Framer part from lines 275. We will really appreciate. So while we are doing this, I will officially close the session and thank you again for coming. The next cohort will be next week. And I think Pauline will remind you about all the assignments in the chat, right? In the Slack channel. Okay. It was a pleasure to be your facilitator today. Pauline, thank you again for the session. And thank you to Saha that had to leave us for some obligations. Thank you to everyone. Have a nice day and see you in the next session. Let me close the recording now.
Yeah.